And you don't see those stitches at all because you completely hide your top stitch. It's not really a top stitch, it's hidden. Okay, so we're coming up on one of those mitered corners. And you would think I've been drinking. Let's just say sometimes I drive like this too. I just don't go straight. I can't color in the lines very well either. That's why I love quilting and the tools that you have available to you. And honestly, the quilts are not perfect, and anyone who picks it apart is no friend of mine. And when they get washed, they're going to have some puckering, and that's kind of the beauty of, now this has got to go, of the quilt. This is from the top stitching. It's just kind of how that, oh, that's from the top. Yeah, the top, the long arm quilter had some thread. I do find those from time to time, but I see quite a few. Anyway, here we go. Back, and I don't mind that I don't catch the back, so you can make a point to catch that and sew in a little further. I would rather have the front be perfect or look better, look more perfect, and have less of a seam allowance here because I brought the needle farther out to the edge of that, which causes it to go off on the back, if that made any sense. I would personally rather do that anyway than have it be short. Sometimes being short just happens, and that's why there's white thread on this side, so if it does happen, it's less noticeable. But personally, I don't mind it the other way. I know, and I only go as far as my arms can stretch as I'm helping it through the machine. But that's okay because I want to get all my little edges in there. It just makes it more tidy. You can go around and trim them. I just feel added security. Now here's one right here that didn't make it in. He's going to be trimmed. Because if someone were to pull that, they might actually have some success at unraveling something. I've got some long threads from the long armor. I don't usually... It happens. It was kind of funny. Is definitely on top. Oh wow, that came from something else. It is to your best interest to find threads like that before you give your quilt away, in case you have someone that will pull them instead of cut them. You don't want your quilt to come undone. Alright, we're coming up on the first corner. Alright, so again, I'm going to trim up this, clean up the threads on the corner because there's a lot that has to go into that corner, and those threads I know are probably not going to end up being tucked in. So what I do, I fold this down nice and tight, get everything in there, and then I make a mitered corner. Just like that. And this is where that purple thing, or your stiletto, could come in handy, because we're going to get real close to the needle there. And I don't normally hold my stiletto or my purple thing that close to the needle. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of fiddling with that, and I think, oh no, we did okay. Now, there's a couple things you can do on the corner, and it really depends on my mood as to how I do it. A lot of times you just come to the corner and then zip, turn around, and then zip down the side. I personally just want a little added fabric or stitching to keep all the little bulk of the fabric in there. So I personally like to go 2 stitches forward once I hit the corner, and then I hit my reverse button and go back 2. I turn the fabric, or turn the corner, and I'm going to still stay in reverse and go back 2. Take that off, go forward 2, and now I'm going to go on my way down the side. And that just gives a little added security to the corner. I do not have my reading glasses on today, and I can tell I need that. So here's just what it looks like. You don't have to do that. I just personally feel a little more secure. But there's enough going on that you could probably round the corner. Some people will do like an X. Yeah, I made it in here without my reading glasses, and I have learned that I need to have them everywhere. So I do, but they've all migrated into the same place. So they started out everywhere. This is one of those places I don't have them. But I can see well enough to see what I'm doing, except a little wobble there. And that's okay. That really is not a problem. Boop. So here we're on the back. Looks really, it looks fine. It is totally good. And that dark pink on the back is perfect. Perfecto. I'm sorry this video is a little longer than the others. I like to keep them short and sweet, but I felt like this one, I had a little more to say. Now there are some people who will attach the binding to the front and flip it over to the back. And I choose not to do that for this very reason. As you can see, it's kind of hit and miss on actually being on the binding. And on the back side, nobody's looking at that because your work of art is the front. And again, you could make sure you sew in enough that you're going to catch it. But I don't really care. Now, I just saw that I went through an area where I was short. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, I don't know if you have to really look hard, but there is white thread right here from the back side. Now, if I had used a pink on that, you would definitely see a thread line. I did the same thing right here. So it just so happened that the way I folded it over and not paying attention maybe, it's very subtle. I would never unpick that because I think it's totally fine. But that is the reason why I want my bobbin thread to match the top of the fabric when I attach my binding. So nobody sees that, and it doesn't matter. I just wanted to point out that we are actually taking advantage of that. Now this section right here, I think I got a little wobbly on my, or sloppy. Yeah, when I was putting the back on, or the binding on the back, because I'm seeing a lot of that white line right through here. My lighting, I'm still working on it. I'm so sorry. I know it's so shady and bad, but there's a lot of that little stitch line. It's coming through here. It's even coming down here. You have to really look hard for it, and because it's barely noticeable. But again, I used white thread that matches my fabric on top. Okay. Coming up on the next corner, getting myself ready, giving it a haircut. in. You guys are going to be a pro at tucking pair or threads in. Alright, we're to our corner. So I pull it down tight and I pull it up. Think of wrapping a Christmas present. Look at that nice pointed corner. And then you can get your little pointy thing involved to help you out. Hold it. Wow, I'm struggling. I seem to do better without that. Okay, 1, 2, back. This is just one of those Lynn things. I have lots of those, by the way. You will soon learn the Lynn way. Which I personally think is awesome for most things. Whoa! Alright. Did you get a little seasick with that? I'm so sorry. You didn't know you were going to go on an amusement ride today. The roller coaster. This actually is going pretty well. Bindings really are not bad or intimidating. You just have to get comfortable with them. And I have made, okay, don't do that. Use your scissors, Lynn, use your scissors. I have made, oh, I don't even know, hundreds of blankets. Seriously, that's like a real number. And then I made hundreds, and I mean like 600-700 hot pads. Little hot pads. And they all got a little teeny binding, just like this, that went around all those little hot pads. And maybe I'll do a tutorial on one of those, but they were really cute. And I sold them. I also donated my inventory to the Ronald McDonald House, along with a bunch of other things. I used to have a boutique, and I just didn't have a place for the stuff. And I like to sell my stuff in person. So Etsy is fine, but you have to really, be found. And that's why I'm using my own website for my bigger items, because the fees involved. But I also, Etsy has a presence online, and I've got a thread right here. So it's definitely a good idea for me to have my Etsy shop. And so the small things will probably end up there, maybe a few quilts just to get attention. But anyway, I didn't keep any of that stuff, and I probably could have or should have. But I have a feeling we're going to make more. Now, I don't know if you can see what I just did, but I'm not even on the binding right now. So, here's my little way of dealing with that. Back up. Do you see that? Oh, that's what I get for talking and not wearing my glasses. Okay, so I just backed up, kept it straight. I didn't even cut the thread, because again, there's a less chance of it unraveling, the less starts and stops that you have. And this is going to blend in and be fine. If it was super, I don't know, I guess you could have done it. I think that is fine. From a distance, it's going to be just fine. The really sad thing is this is variegated thread, and that happened to be the darkest part of the thread. Right where I did that, it would have blended a little better if I had a color, more the color of the fabric. Honestly, it is okay. And on the back side, I have no idea even where it was at. But sometimes that happens. It's awesome when it's a black fabric with black thread. You have no idea when you have to do that. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, I have done a lot of binding. And I didn't used to do the mitered edges because I was intimidated by them. I honestly didn't know how to do it. There is a little tool. Let's see if I can find it. It got lost in the mail and it took forever to get to me. So by the time it came, I figured out how to do it without it. So I've never actually used it, but it's this little tool right here. And let's see if I can get it going in the right direction. Has little pictures in here. I was able to figure it out without it, but I wish I had done that a long time ago because it's just been the last, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 quilts that I have been doing mitered corners. So prior to that, I had that bulk on everything, including those little hot pads, which for something that's so little, and these were actually big hot pads, they're like 9 by 9, but still, for something that size to have a bulky seam was noticeable. You saw it. And now I can make them without them. So do what you can, do what you're comfortable with. If your brain can figure out this mitered thing, then you are good. And I never actually showed you how to finish on a mitered quilt because we didn't have to do the mitered end. So I will show you that on my scrap fabrics. How does that sound? Because it's a really easy trick. I just didn't have to do it on this one. And trust me, this quilt would have looked really funny if I had done it on there, because those two mitered edges seriously would have been like within an inch of each other, and that right there would have drawn attention and probably given it some bulk. And what I ended up doing is fine. And I'll be honest, I don't think that happens very often. Hey, look at that. Perfect little miter. This time I just did one stitch going back each time. Depends on my mood. If you do more than that though, then you're like zipping off the edge, and that just doesn't look quite right. Look how pretty. It's all coming together. Now you can definitely see on this corner there's white thread. Oh, and there goes the tripod again. Sorry. Anyway, again, we're having to look really hard for this, and this is where if someone else is picking your work apart and looking that hard for imperfections, maybe they don't deserve a quilt. Because they should love you and love it and love all the work that you did. Because there is a lot of work, and this is just the very last step. Some people put labels on their quilts. I think they're a great idea. I'm really, really bad at doing it. But you can write little notes on them, like, you know, for a wedding gift or whoever it's specifically to. You can write about the quilt itself. So like if the quilt was made with certain fabrics, certain time, certain thread. Yeah, that's a little wobbly, but I'm okay with it. I really am. Anyway, so you could do all kinds of things with the labels, but that would be the last thing you do. And there's different ways to attach the label. Some ways to do the label would be to incorporate it right in the binding. We're almost to the last corner, which is the end, by the way. The end is near. You can also sew your binding or your label like as a patch right in the middle of the quilt. I usually put it close to the corner when I do them. There's different types of labels. You can machine embroider them, handwrite on this coordinating fabric or white fabric. There are some really cute prints, like panels that you can buy that have labels on them. Depending on when you incorporate your label, Could depend on how you want to do that too. Some people will put the label on after it comes back from the long arm quilter. Some people, because it's a bigger label, might put it on first, then the quilting will go over top of it. If you do a label that goes into the binding, you can do those freestanding little tags, kind of like what you see on towels. You can do where you just like go corner to corner across the, like a triangle across the corner or a banner, incorporating it into the banner or the binding. Huh, we're almost done. This quilt was a good size throw quilt. And I do appreciate you hanging out with me through all of this. I am going to talk about doing that mitered binding in just a minute, so stick with me. Don't give up just yet. Okay, we're coming up on this last corner, so you can't see that yet. Sorry, I have such a good view of my machine, not my work. All right, so here's where we started. And honestly, it didn't even tack in the end, in the corner. Sometimes that just happens. I'm not even worried about it. That's why I start in the corner. And then this is where, when I started, I missed this little ledge. And again, I'm not even worried about it because I'm going to come down to the corner and then go in a little bit. That, because corners get a lot of wear and tear. And I just feel like doubling over on my stitches is good. Oh, and we actually went over someplace. We're going to have to go back and find it. That straight stitch binding. I didn't even notice it. Usually there's a little more of a bump to it than obviously what there was today. Okay, and this is just my thing. I like to go in a little bit. Oh wait, actually, I am going to continue on with it because I didn't realize I did this. Boy, I've done a lot of mistakes on this, but nothing I can't live with. It's a quilt. It's a big soft blanket, and when it gets washed, it's going to be loved, and these little imperfections are going to be not even noticed. Okay, so there's my end. Let's get that corner. There's my starting corner. It's not the prettiest, but it is okay. And there's the back. Now that ended up off a little bit, which is another reason why my thread on the back matches the back fabric, and you don't even notice, other than the binding here is thinner, but you don't notice that my threads are actually up here. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty darn good. Okay, so there we go with that. So now I want to try to give you just a quick little example of how to finish a miter when you don't have, let's see here, where can I find some fabric? I have no idea where I would find fabric. That's such a silly question around here. Alright, so there we go. This is a test fabric that I had, and it happens to be a quilt sandwich, which is what we're going to do with the quilt anyway, right? So we have our top, our bottom, and our fabric. So we're going to pretend this is a quilt, and we're going to finish it with our black thread. Oh, you know what I want to do before I go any further? I'm going to go back and find on this big quilt that non-mitered seam, because I want to see if it had any bulk to it. We did really good by flattening it. You and me. Let's see. Did I tell you I don't have my glasses on today? Yeah, I should still be able to see this. And if I were piecing, there's no way I would be able to do this without my glasses. I found a thread. It's gotta go. When you find them, you gotta deal with them, because finding them again, not gonna happen. Well, you know what? Here I am talking about this. I have no idea where it is. That means we did well. I seriously can't find it. I see all the mitered size. Okay, well, I might just have to show you later when I find it. Yeah, I'm very pleased with this invisible seam. Wow, seriously, I don't remember where it was. There's my miter. Okay, this is my last side, and I'm gonna not look for it anymore. Aha. Is that it? Nope. I give up. Oh, look, it's right there. All right, we had a dead battery. Okay, so back to this. This is that straight joint. I cannot believe it's that flat. I'll be honest, they're not usually that good. But if you look real hard, you can see a little bit of a raise because it is thicker. We're really picking this apart to even try to find that. So, guess what? We are not worried about it. All right, so now we're going to play with this little quilt sandwich, and I'm going to show you how to do a mitered thing, which is going to be fun because we're at the very end of this. This is not very big. Oh, let's pretend it's real. Normally you have a bigger surface than this. Just gonna go around here because I think it needs it. A minute. Look at that. Now normally you have a cleaner cut, but for what I'm doing I don't really care, so I guess we'll see if it gets captured in this or not. And that needs to be flush. Alright, so this was our original. Oh, that's funny. I did that mitered corner and I did the wrong to the right, so the right to the right. Told you I'm having a day. You probably caught that, and I'm just now catching it. Too funny, but we don't need that. So we're going to now to our last corner. Now normally you would come down from the corner a little bit, but because this thing is so tiny, we don't have really hardly any room. Although I do want to tack that corner because corners are just a pain, and I do want everything going the direction it should be going. So there we are, and here we are. Now we have a lot of fabric here. Normally all you have to do is overlap the fabric by the width of the fabric. So this is 2.5 inches wide, right? Which means we need 2.5 inches of overlap. That way when we do the bias or the angle, it will match. Now I happen to have a ruler on my machine down here, and I'm going to use this. I don't know if you can see it. And this is actually overlapping to just short oh, it's right at 2.5. Look at that. We don't have to trim it, but that's what you do, is you're going to have it be overlapping that. So now what you do is, here's your quilt. You're going to take your right side, then you're going to take your right side of this side. This is where you kind of have to fiddle with the quilt, and they're going to fold over like this, and then you do that corner to corner on that, and a bigger quilt is easier to hold and to work with because you have more room. Pretty sure my first little part might have a pucker, but it's just because it's so small. Now before you trim that off, you want to see if that works, and that does. And then you come under here, you trim that off, add it to the triangle stash, and there you go. And then you just finish tacking it down. Hopefully you can see this because we have all kinds of colors going on and overlaps. So there we have got our mini blanket, and all you would do is flip it over and finish it. But there's that bias strip right there, so you won't even see that. You won't even see it. Normally I care about threads, but not on this one. And I'm just going to, not going to worry about my little corner back stitch. And you don't have to. This actually will work out well with that too. Now, this really is a bad example, but I guess we'll see. Would be handy right there. I come up on my corner, and then I always double down just a little bit, and then we're done. So we have officially quilted a scrap quilt. Ta-da! All done, and it's flat, and it has little mitered corners. Some are better than others. This was really a fast. Didn't put a lot of effort into it. Could have been better. But there you go. That's how you do it. And I'm going to do other tutorials that will be shorter that will go over the binding process too, because I know there's a lot of things that might not have made sense. And if you're like me, you just got to learn, or see it a couple different times, different ways. So that's it. And we're going to actually look at this big quilt super fast. I don't know what you're going to be able to see. But this is the finished quilt with my, that's cute, right? With the pink binding, and look how cute that turned out. That turned out really well. And so we have all different colors of the rainbow on this, and that's why it really didn't matter what went on the back. It matched as long as it was similar style. And that pink really works well, front and back. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.